Good evening. You're watching the May News on HKIBC. I'm Raymond Yeung. Here are tonight's top stories. Japan will start discharging radioactive water from Thursday, triggering a ban on Japanese food imports by the SAR government. University student Lui Sai-yu will serve his full 5-year term behind bars after losing his ultimate challenge at a court of final appeal. And former Thai Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra returns home on the same day the parliament elects a new leader. Japan will start releasing treated radioactive water from the Fukushima power plant into the Pacific Ocean on Thursday, ending months of speculation. The scheme, which will last 3 decades, is slammed by China as selfish and irresponsible. Thaksin Shinawatra reports.
Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Wang Wenbin strongly condemned the actions of the Japanese government, saying it was an extremely selfish and irresponsible move. Japan places self-interest above the long-term well-being of mankind, he added.
일본 측이 후쿠시마 원전 오염수를
In a more neutral stance, the South Korean government said it neither supports nor opposes the release of radioactive water into the sea. Senior official Park Gu-yeon said Seoul would monitor the situation and request regular updates from the International Atomic Energy Agency. But Japanese fishermen could be the biggest losers. Many are worried demand for Japanese seafood would tumble and their livelihoods could be seriously compromised. Haruo Ono said the sea should not be polluted as it belongs to the earth and not humans. He noted many countries within Southeast Asia will ban Japanese seafood because of the discharge of radioactive water. Their bad news was confirmed by Prime Minister Fumio Kishida this morning, ending months of speculation. Tokyo Electric Power Company, which operates the damaged nuclear power plant, will start releasing treated radioactive wastewater into the Pacific Ocean from Thursday. In one of the worst nuclear disasters in history, the plant in Fukushima suffered a partial meltdown in one of its reactors following a devastating earthquake and tsunami in 2011. Water which was used to cool down the nuclear fuel has so far been treated and stored in massive tanks. But space is running out, and authorities say they need to get rid of the water as they begin decommissioning the plant. Thaksin Shinawatra, HKIBC.
Hong Kong will ban seafood imports from 10 Japanese prefectures on Thursday, confirming earlier warnings. The environment chief dismissed claims that the ban will devastate the catering industry, arguing instead it will provide peace of mind to consumers. Janice Low reports.
Hong Kongers would soon be unable to enjoy some Japanese seafood and delicacies. The SAR government announced today that it will ban aquatic imports from 10 prefectures starting on Thursday, the same day that Japan will discharge treated radioactive water into the Pacific Ocean. All forms of aquatic products, as well as sea salt and seaweed from Miyagi, Fukushima, where the nuclear plant is located, Niigata, Tochigi, Ibaraki, Gunma, Nagano, Saitama, Chiba, and capital Tokyo would be banned. Environment Minister Tse Jin-wan added authorities will conduct daily tests on other Japanese food imports, Hong Kong water, and local fish on possible contamination. The ban will remain in place until further notice.
It depends on the data and information we can collect it, and as well as provided by the Japanese government after the discharge. It includes, of course, the radioactive levels and also the monitoring and management system of the Japanese government on how to ensure that the system will operate smoothly and also effectively.
Tse repeatedly sidestepped questions on whether the government would lend a helping hand to operators of Japanese restaurants, which will be hit hard by the disruption.
We believe the best way is that, well, to ensure the food safety and to also retain the confidence of people of Hong Kong in Japanese food. I think that is the best way to have the trade.
The restrictions will be published in the government gazette tomorrow. Janice Low, HKIBC.
A university student convicted of inciting secession will now serve his full term in jail after the Court of Final Appeal rejected his bid for a reduction. Lui Sai-yu was initially given a 1/3 deduction for a guilty plea before it was revoked on a technicality. Here's Janice Low.
Lui Sai-yu arrived at the city's top court in a prison van this morning. Now 26 years old, the engineering student at Polytechnic University was accused of inciting secession on social media back in 2020. Upon his guilty plea last year, the district court initially reduced his sentence by 1/3 to 3 years and 8 months. But the prosecution pointed out that Lui's offense was deemed to be of a serious nature and he must not be imprisoned for less than 5 years as stipulated by the national security law. After an unsuccessful challenge at the High Court, Lui took the case to the Court of Final Appeal. But hopes of an immediate release were dashed after his appeal was unanimously dismissed by a 5-judge panel led by Chief Justice Andrew Yeung. The bench ruled that should inconsistencies arise, national security law provisions are given priority over local laws. Under the convergence principle, local sentencing laws and principles are applied within the framework of the national security law. But defense counsel Robert Pang argued that there is a continuum in the national security provision, and the jail term should not be restricted by any lower limit of a sentencing ban. But the judges considered the argument as untenable, as the national security law has clearly adopted mandatory language in the nature and length of the sentence imposed. The judges also rejected the defense's claim that there could be more mitigating factors other than the ones stated in the legislation. They ruled that the 3 conditions listed in Article 33 are exhaustive, and that a guilty plea isn't one of them. With his ultimate challenge now over, Lui is now expected to walk free next January, 14 months after his arrest. Lui Sai-yu is the second person convicted of national security offenses to launch an appeal at the city's top court. Now that the judges unanimously dismissed his bid for a reduction of his jail term, the decision would set a landmark precedent on future national security cases. Janice Low, HKIBC.
Turning overseas, former Thai Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra has returned home from self-imposed exile and sentenced to 8 years in jail. Just hours later, the parliament elected a new leader, which many feel could work on Thaksin's early release. Sachin Kampa reports.
Thaksin Shinawatra was in good spirits as he was greeted by supporters upon stepping out of Don Mueang Airport in Bangkok. In a symbolic gesture, the former Prime Minister immediately paid his respects to the king by bowing to his portrait at the door. The 74-year-old, who had been in self-imposed exile, mostly in Dubai for the past 15 years, returned home by private jet to face corruption charges, which he insists are politically motivated. Under heavy police escort, Thaksin was taken to the Supreme Court, where he was told that he would serve 8 years in jail. But there is speculation that he could seek a royal pardon from King Maha Vajiralongkorn. Shortly after fleeing the country in 2008, Thaksin was sentenced in absentia to 2 years imprisonment. His decision to return at a time of political uncertainty in the country has triggered intense speculation. The Phua Thai party, headed by Thaksin's daughter Paitongtarn Shinawatra, only announced yesterday a coalition of 10 other parties in a bid to form a new government.
Let bygones be bygone.
A highly divisive figure, Thaksin was the first democratically elected Prime Minister to serve a full term. He was re-elected in 2005 by an overwhelming majority, but was ousted a year later in a military coup. Thaksin's return has certainly overshadowed today's vote in Parliament in what is the third attempt in recent weeks to pick a new leader following the general elections in May. No single bloc secured a majority vote in the poll, and attempts by progressive leader Peter Limjaroenrat to form a coalition government was blocked by conservative rivals. Months of political deadlock finally ended after Srettha Thavisin, who's backed by Phua Thai, was elected Thailand's 30th Prime Minister this evening. The 60-year-old real estate tycoon will be heading an 11-party coalition after garnering enough support from both houses of parliament. Thaksin Shinawatra, HKIBC.
Hong Kong stocks have finally ended its longest losing streak in 2 years. The rebound came as the stock exchange celebrated its 30th anniversary of the listing of mainland firms. Chloe Fong reports.
30 years ago today, Qingdao Brewery became the first mainland company to list in Hong Kong. That ushered in an era of 8 shares, which now dominate transactions in the SER market.
谁也没想到，这一杯啤酒将给香港市场带来了翻天地覆的变化。
Hong Kong Stock Exchange and Clearing Chairwoman Laura Chan said mainland shares have brought unprecedented changes to the city's stock market. She noted less than 500 mainland enterprises were listed in Hong Kong 30 years ago, valued at $3 trillion. That has since grown to over 2,600 firms, with a market valuation of nearly $37 trillion.
往后呢，试点的范围逐步扩大，办法也越来越多。
Financial Secretary Paul Chan said that listing methods have also become more diversified, together with the arrival of various Stock Connect schemes. He proclaimed Hong Kong has now become the top choice for mainland firms seeking to raise capital offshore. The city's stock market valuation now roughly accounts for 27% of the national gross domestic product.
At HKEX, we expect China's capital markets to continue to rapidly evolve, potentially tripling in value over the next decade. We call this the Big Bang of finance, and it will reshape global markets for decades to come.
Their remarks came as the Hang Seng Index ended a 7-session losing streak, edging up nearly 1%. The Hang Seng Tech Index was also up 2%. The rebound was driven by mainland shares, in particular tech stocks. Alibaba, JD.com, and Meituan advanced nearly 2%, while Baidu was up 0.9%, following better than expected quarterly results. China Resources Power gained 2.2% after interim profit jumped 54% from a year earlier. Chloe Fong, HKIBC.
Finally, the weather. Mainly cloudy with a few showers and isolated thunderstorms tomorrow. Temperatures will range between 28 and 32 degrees. A few showers in the following couple of days with sunny intervals. That's our main news for Tuesday night. Join us for more news at 11. Thanks for watching. Good night.